Hi everyone, today we're going to be converting terminating decimals into fractions. So terminating decimals are decimals that end. So if you see a decimal and then just some numbers behind it without anything else, that's a terminating decimal. It means it ends, it doesn't go on forever. Non-terminating decimals or not terminating decimals are decimals that do not end. And you know that they don't end because they have a dot, dot, dot at the end, or they have this little line above the number, one number, a couple numbers. It doesn't matter, but if that line's there, then that means that it goes on forever. So, for example, this and this are going to be not terminating decimals, and we know that for sure because we have that line above the 7 and the dot, dot, dot at the end of this one. So this is something that you'll focus on when you get into higher math. Right now, we're focusing on terminating decimals or decimals that end. What's going to be really important to know in order to do this skill is your place values. So we use place values not only to properly pronounce the decimals, but also to convert it into fractions. So the place value right after the decimal place is the tenths place. After that is the hundredths, then thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths, 10 millionths, and 100 millionths. You can continue going on, but we're just going to stop it right here. What's nice about place value is that besides the ones place, everything is the same going forwards and backwards. So that means before the decimal place, you still have tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on and so on. But when you go after that decimal place, what we add is that THS at the end and pretty much go in reverse order. So again, we start with the tenths, hundredths, thousands, and so on and so on. So if you know this direction, oh, where's my pen? There you go. If you know this direction, then you can do this direction as well. So here we go, how to convert terminating decimals into fractions. And we have our example right there. I know it's super easy to kind of just call it 0.36, but that's not the proper mathematical way of saying it. And the proper mathematical way of saying it actually is our first step. So it's or we need to use our first step in order to say it, I should say. So step 1 is to identify the place value of that last digit. So we do that when we're pronouncing this as well. So this sixth place is, the 6 is going to be in the place value of our hundredths. And I know that because I have 2 numbers after my decimal place, and I follow 1, 2. That means it's in the hundredths place. So that last value, or that 6, is in the hundredths place. And that is going to be our first step of converting terminating decimals to fractions, but that also helps us pronounce it. So when we're pronouncing it, we're going to read 36 as we normally would, but then we're going to say hundredths at the end. So decimals really focus on that last place value. This decimal right here would be pronounced as 36 hundredths. So we did our step 1. We can move on to step 2. Step 2, write the place value number under the decimal as a fraction without any decimals. So we have 36. 36 is going to be our numerator. That is the number that the fraction has. And now as our denominator, we're going to use that place value. So we have hundredths. So I am going to write 100 underneath my 36 as my denominator. So 36 hundredths, just like how we pronounced it. We made it into a fraction that same way. 36 hundredths. Now, a cool little hint for you is that the amount of numbers in your original decimal is the amount of numbers, or the amount of zeros needed in the number below. So if you have, in this case, 2 numbers, for example, the 3 and the 6, we would have 2 zeros in our denominator. So that's kind of a little helpful hint. Now our final step is to simplify the fraction by dividing the top and the bottom number by the same amount until the greatest common factor of the numerator and the denominator is 1. So what that pretty much means is just a fancy way of saying simplify until you can't anymore. If you want to do this in one step, then you're going to need to divide by the least common multiple. So there's a couple of different strategies that you can use. You can divide by the least common multiple, or you can do what I'm going to do right here and keep dividing until you can't anymore. So if I were looking at this problem, I see that 36 and 100 are both even numbers. So that should tell me that they for sure can be divided by 2. So 36 divided by 2 is 18. And 100 divided by 2 is 50. Okay, so I'm not done though. You can't just divide once and say that you're done. You have to make sure that you can't divide it anymore. Looking at my problem, 18 and 50 are still even numbers. So that tells me again that I can for sure divide by at least 2. I might have to keep going, but I'm going to try dividing by 2 again. 18 divided by 2 is 9. And 50 divided by 2 is 25. Okay, again, I might not be done. I have to see if there's anything else I can divide by 9 and 25. Well, the factors of 9 are 1, 3, and 9. The factors of 25 are 1, 5, and 25. The biggest number that I can divide by is 1, so I have my final answer. Super, super important that you keep trying to divide by some number. What's the greatest common factor is 1, or you can't divide by anything else other than 1, then you are finished. So that is how you convert terminating decimals into fractions. If you have any questions, please let me know.